Wassail, beautiful people. So, sorry and apologies for not replying to the story of the White Hart. It was too profound, and I just felt it was a space where we all needed to express ourselves with and reply to each other if you wish to. But there wasn't anything I felt I could add. I've read all the comments, and thank you so much for them. It's just it was a very difficult energy. I don't think that the frequency of that story is over yet. It will roll on. In Celtic mythology, the White Hart is the other world. It's the world of magic, and the world of magic has brought a sign to humanity, and we dealt with the sign in the way in which we thought was right. So I do keep hearing from behind the veil the idea that the game is on now. So that's very interesting. We're going to go to, I'll just show you the split there, personal power and source power. And they're saying that's got very much to do with each individual pathway to the expression of what the White Hart was delivering. So let's begin with the bells. So I'm seeing dolphins, light workers, calling all light workers. I don't know what to express about that. I am just seeing dolphins riding in and out of the sea. There's something to do with the marine world. It is Neptune's bell. It's a long time since that sense of the connection. There's a playfulness to this energy, but there's also a sense of wiseness and enormous healing frequency. I need a sip of water already. So I was going to dive into the shamanic oracle. I'm getting a feeling I need to go with Odin and the 9 realms, which surprises me because there's nothing about dolphins in here. There's not really anything about dolphins in there, but so Odin and the 9 realms. Do you know, I knew that one was coming as I picked it up, Logir, because it's lagoon, it's water. We're talking about the aquatic world globally, the seas around us. But this is usually an energy, look, in many places it's lagoon, it's lake, it's ocean, it's sea, depending on what part of the world was dealing with the runic symbol of Logir, Lagu. But this is about something opening and awakening within the sea itself. It's a much more profound energy when it's not about us being back inside an embryonic phase of life. This is about changes to the marine world. Oh, Hagal. I mean, at the moment, Hagal, you only have to look at it. The only thing it can represent is La Palma. La Palma, the very energy of what's going on is awakening something within the oceans. I don't want to do a reading on La Palma, but the energy I'm being shown is a rebirth of the oceans. So they're saying to me it's because Earth energy, Earth Epoch, was putting so much silt inside the oceans, the Akashic record, that now we're getting a sense of clearing, purifying, temperance frequency, Mary the Jewess, bringing some kind of change to the energetic world of the deep sea, a clarity of emotions, treasures rising up, very much a Ran frequency. Let's just get a few more on the Odin. I mean, water sorcery, I may as well just say it now, really. There's water sorcery afoot. What do you want to talk about, water sorcery? What is the water sorcery? It's Thor's. It's something enormous. It's something that brings enormous spiritual change. And I really mean spiritual change. I don't necessarily, they're not saying it's enormous physical change, but it is spiritual change. They're making a joke about Thor's is it's a TH, but it so often looks like a P in modern Latin alphabet that they're pointing out the HP. It's like that used to be the term for something when you couldn't afford to buy a television years ago, you got it on HP, on hired purchase. They're talking about the world has been like on a hired purchase, and now it isn't. The world is moving into its own frequency, and we have to stop imagining that we own it. We were only hiring its services in some way. So let's just have a little dab down. So let's take the raw runes. Actually, I need to rifle them. So there's something about Egil Shamir and Original Birthright that pulled out then. Sort of like, ultimately the purpose of humanity's place on Earth is an original birthright that is protected, but the Earth is changing. The frequency of the planet is changing, the frequency of the elements are changing. It's awakening. Wacken. It's originating a new plan forwards. It's originating a journey home. It's Bifrost, Bilrost. It's this wonderful Hemfereld. To home Fereld. Fereld is to travel home. The Earth is travelling home. So it's like the energy of it's air. That's what they're showing me. They're showing me the space between above and below is the frequency of air. Below is the land, above is cosmic consciousness, energy, and it's air that is bringing that homeward journey. It's like a breath of fresh air that awakens it. It's almost, they're showing me taking a spark, trying to spark something up, and how you gently blow on the kindling, that soft, gentle energy to bring something new. Only they're saying on a much bigger scale. So what else would you like to add, please, to this Earth frequency that's changing? This homeward journey of the elements. This homeward journey of the elements, what does that mean? Right, we've got Lecce. We've got an emotional bleed. They're not going to let me get away from it. They're like, you have to talk about it. The magma, I keep talking about magma, but the magma is the emotional bleeding of the earth. The earth, during Earth Epoch, was earth on steroids. And it was almost, it was so aggressive in its own, it was like it was drugged up, the earth. And it was willing to be abused. It's almost like it was so confused, the earth, that the earth itself was suffering from victim mentality. It kind of pulls in the energy of abuse from us to the natural world. And that emotional bleed is being seen now in the pouring out of magma to release the pressure within inside the earth. So, a couple more. You can kind of see that the journey home is a very balanced frequency. It's a very mirrored energy. And here we need to move this up to kind of stem the bleeding cosmically right up into the air energy of Earth. But this is like V for volcano in many ways. It's also, it's a surge coming out, but that surge is currently an emotional bleed of magma. Not just in La Palma, also in Iceland, and I suspect more magma to come, because they're showing me an expansion. It's rewiring the sacral of the earth, Io, 13 frequency. It's really weird that they're telling me that all of these cards represent the planet, the natural world, the world behind the veil is being reborn. So for me, the sacral is the seat of the emotions. It's earth, followed by water, which is the sacral, and then you have solar plexus is fire, and then the heart, where we breathe, is air. So we're looking at the water, the emotions being reborn, the clearing of the water. It's interesting that they said today that the lava falling off La Palma is changing the colour of the water. Turquoise and brown is being created. It's obviously changing the temperature. It's obviously disturbing the marine world. And yeah, I'm quite sure dolphins and fish, they sense the danger and move, but there are all kinds of crustaceans and other life that will be swallowed by this emotional bleed. And then what do we have? The Helm of Or, Egilshamir, it arrived. They're kind of asking us to not show fear, but to show awe at the power of the natural world as it wakes up. It's interesting again because, look, this is the homeward journey, but actually, if you take it and look at the sacral, look at the similarity. We only have to remove these two pieces and we've got the same energy. Part of the journey home is something that the planet already understands. It's done this cycle before. It's not thinking of anything that's happened to it as being wrong. It's just part of a frequency that just is. It's not looking for retribution. So air, fire and water are not looking for retribution over the fact that when earth energy was at its height, that it caused a problem for the others. It's just a natural flowing cycle of awe. We need to be in awe of this. So let's go to the you see, I kind of want to grab at the shamanics, but they're saying stick to the Odin for the moment. So I feel like Smushbelhamir. Muspelheimir is the fire giant. This is the place where fire meets ice. fire meeting the cold sea. The magma is around 1,000 degrees Celsius, and the sea is about 20. And the idea is that in Norse mythology, where fire meets ice, the physical world is created. Where the lava is meeting the sea, there's a creation. We're seeing a steam, which is very much the fog of the ice realm rising, though it's obviously steam, but the whole point is it's veiling over the transformation because it's so dramatic. But it's also creating a new land. It's building a new physical world. The island is growing quite dramatically. And back in Lisbon, I did have that frequency in some of the readings of new land rising out of the sea. New formations, almost growing space for humanity, but exchanging space for humanity is more what I'm hearing in my head. You know, new lamps for old, that kind of thing. For what is given, something has to go. There's always that sense of something, making room for something new. So what else would you like to say, please? What else would you like to say? We have Fe. Now, Fe is the first. It's a beginning. It's a new beginning. But it's a beginning that's got like a double-edged sword to it. There's two senses of the Ægishelmir hidden in the two coins. It's about boundaries. It's about what you hem in. What do you hem in, and what do you see as a freedom? What do you see as being the sacral? The earth is bringing fire to boundaries. The earth is bringing energy of change. I need another card, please. Fire and ice. They're also doing that thing where it's sort of like, what if? What if things change? What if things change? Things always change. That's part of the guarantee of life. The ice giants are meeting the fire giants. So usually the fire giants come out of Ragnarok, and I would say it's not some kind of doom and gloom scenario. And we've got air giants in Thurs. The only thing we don't have is an earth giant, because earth is no longer dominant. The earth is reacting to the freeing of the other energies, because air is bringing a new frequency, a new doorway, a new opening. And yes, it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable for us to witness our planet changing before us. So would you like to add anything else before I get the shamanic sound? Would you like to add anything else to that? So I saw Ran. It's a fanfare to the ocean. We're there again. The energy is the changing frequency of water, of the Akashic records. It's almost like there's been information that's in the Akashic records, in the oceans, in the sea, in the moisture, in the rain, in the clouds. All of this water frequency that remembers everything is beginning to remember things that you couldn't see because of the silted energy of the earth. You take out the silt of the earth and you're left with the fire, the air, and the water. Shaking out old lost emotions, shaking out old lost traumas for the earth and for us. It's we are made of the earth, and what the earth is remembering is being remembered by our molecules too, by all the elements that make us, all the carbon and all of the sort of different pieces of phosphorus and all these other tiny frequencies to do with our chemical changes that are in us. As the earth frees itself from its earth epoch prison, so too are we freeing ourselves with it. We are the earth. Don't sing the song. So let's get to the shamanic deck and see what wants to be added. Little pad down for the water sorcery of humidity that is the Yucatan Peninsula. I say Yucatan Peninsula, where they worship the feathered serpent. So, we're picking up the energy of Quetzalcoatl or Cucalan. I'm seeing, that's so weird, I'm seeing a beaver. Seeing a beaver down here that spirit is striking down on. Air frequency is striking down on the dam makers. And that's fascinating that I'm seeing that, because this morning I've been looking at the energy of the Colorado River. And I was planning to do a reading on it, but I've gathered a lot of information, but it doesn't feel like today is the point of it. Today is merely referencing how we're hoarding water, and yet water is so full of magical sorcery that it's escaping from us. So the one fact I'm going to give you for now is that the Colorado River used to run right the way through 7 states and into Mexico and into the Bay of California. And they've been building series of dams over the last century and a half. They've been playing with the energy of a river. Because it floods, they wanted control, they wanted to use the water to make agriculture on arid lands. So we've been manipulating water, and that's great. In Earth Epoch, it's doable. But there's something about Air Epoch where it no longer becomes doable. I need to check the name of the place, which is the fact that I want to give you, but I really want to give it to you properly. Lake Powell, which is one of the artificial lakes created by a dam. It's so, because the frequency of climate has changed, every year that lake is losing 750,000 acre feet of water to evaporation, to the air, to the fire and the air. And it's also losing 380,000 acre feet of water to natural seepage through the rocks and underneath this artificial reservoir lake that was created. That's enough water to supply 9 million people for a year. So it's merely saying that we've got to start thinking differently about water. You know, you can place dams, you can place things to kind of capture water, but are you doing it for legitimate reasons, or are you doing it for political power? Because the bottom end of the Colorado River, through all the various uses that have been given to different states in both North America and a strange agreement with the Mexican government back in about 1936, I think, the small amount of water that still runs, because the Colorado River doesn't run anymore into Mexico, the small amount of water that they receive, they put into canals and they use themselves for agriculture. So everyone's stealing the water to grow food, and that's an understandable thing. We need food. There's no immediate instant solutions to this, but you are interfering with the natural flow of the world and how Ran and all the undines and the water goddesses and Logir would naturally flow. And to me, it feels like they're not going to accept that anymore. There's some kind of energy of a need to free the water. Another place which I'm just going to pick up on as well is in Ethiopia. Again, they've built a new dam called the Renaissance Dam that's from a tributary of the Nile, and it's got kind of underhand funding through other countries, China in particular, providing the labour or providing the mechanics around the thing rather than direct loans. And that's causing problems for Sudan and Egypt because, again, you're hoarding a natural resource that's meant to be shared to serve one country. And I'm not saying anyone's right or wrong in this. Everything that's happened in terms of our desire to control water for our survival is what was needed at a time. What the cards are saying is it's time for us to review how we handle natural resources. And it's going to come more and more into focus as time moves on. So why is Quetzalcoatl here? Why have we got the feathered serpent here? Why have we got the feathered serpent here? Oh, so they're saying to me because Quetzalcoatl represents the energy to bring back water. Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent, it's to do with the underground cenotes, the huge mystical river that runs underneath Mexico. You see, and that's what they're showing me. They're showing me the medicine. And again, you've got both parts of Quetzalcoatl, and you've got the hummingbird and you've got the jaguar. The apex predator is squashing out the emotions of the people, but that's what was meant to happen during Earth Epoch times. But so the energies of also the age of Pisces, interestingly, so a much longer period. But so this is the cenote hole with all the mystical, religious, spiritual sacredness that's hidden inside these holes in the earth with this river snaking underneath the earth. Interesting. So, a little pair more. We have Lenny Kravitz, a luminous warrior. What do you want to tell me about the cenotes and Quetzalcoatl? What do you want to tell me about the cenotes and Quetzalcoatl? Right, so we're going right back to the Earth's luminous warrior. Is it sacral? There's a need for the water, the emotions of the earth to calm down, to come back into, to have a renaissance. Now that's interesting. Water renaissance. To have a water renaissance in an arid place. To return water to places it hasn't been for a long time, and it's being brought in by the upper world, by the air frequency. It's again, the absence isn't the heat, it isn't the air, it isn't the earth, the absence is the water. There's water everywhere, but there's an absence of water being in the correct places because of our obsessive manipulation of water. So what would you like to tell me more about this, please? So, whirlpool, swelgness, vortex, the vortex, and urdur, the past, urdur. And then we have this wonderful card of Cunninger, which is cunning, I learn to know. We have to learn from the past. We have to learn the error of our ways to heal this current drought, this current ulcer, this current lack of the emotions. It's not just about a lack of water. It's not about crops being denied the chance to have water and grow. It's about us being denied the chance to grow emotionally. And so we have oak, which is 25. There was a 25. Something earlier was pointing 25. No, it was another reading I was doing. And then we have needle to stitch. We've got to re-stitch the past to get into the future. Oh, see, now that's what they're telling me. There's a wonderful phrase. That's why it's come up. The White Hart, just to return to the White Hart briefly. The coat of arms of the town in which the hart was killed, has a shield with a chevron. It has 3 fleur-de-lis outside of the chevron, and inside the chevron are 3 stag's heads. And the 3 stag's heads represent part of the motto, which is respice, aspice, and prospice. And this means reflect on the past, swelgness, and urthr. Consider the present, and then provide for the future. We have to learn by our mistakes. We can't hold on to the past. So what we can't hold on to are all of these, not laws so much, but these treaties to do with who can have what with water. Because by having all these treaties, there is no solution, because each person will say, back in, 1936, we signed this that said we can have this much water. I want to give you one other interesting fact as we move on, which is that through these treaties that have been signed, each time it's agreed that a certain state or a certain country is entitled to a certain percentage of the water, less and less water is reaching the end of the river and reaching the estuary and the delta, and it's dried it out. So once upon a time there were 1,200 meters cubed, cubic meters per second of water rushing the base end of the Colorado into Mexico. Now it's 0.5 cubic meters a second. So in the space of 120 years, we've killed the estuary. We've taken away the water from the people. There's a tribe, I forget their name, but their name means water people in Mexico. And some of them can remember the water coming through in the springtime and being a proper river. And I mean, I'll be honest, I didn't even know the Colorado was meant to go into Mexico, because it hasn't been there for so long. So, this is interesting because this card is about toxic emotions. This is also the card that the other day when I was doing a reading, I put the deck near my bottle of water and all the condensation rolled off, and this card became floppy and wet. It's just being dried out. And they're talking about the drying out of spaces that the natural world, the Earth's luminous warrior, believes should have water, leaves a toxicity in the land. 14 years ago, they decided to just give a load of water so that it could run down there and just see what happened if they gave it what they call a pulse of water. And that pulse of water went down into the delta, and it returned the natural seeding of plants and trees just by the area that was parched being given life. And there was a 43% increase in migratory birds in that area. And yet somehow we're not sharing resources. There's something like 267 watersheds, rivers, bodies of water that cross international borders, and there are problems in so many of them where resources are not equally or fairly looked after. Certain countries will make water and land toxic before it arrives down for other people. We have to start thinking about these things. It's strange, the Tree of Life was the other card that got wet, and I put them back in the deck in two separate places to press them flat. And yet they've both come out in this reading, these two cards that have been drained and drenched in water. It's what we need almost to do now. We need to consider what we're doing with dams, why we hold water back. You know, nature holds water naturally when it thinks it's a good idea, and we're doing it in some kind of ability to control. There's the Colorado River used to periodically flood, and there's something like on the Hoover Dam when it was built, it has 5 bas relief images, and it's flood control, navigation, irrigation, water storage and power. And actually it was really about control, political control. When they built it, it was to generate water. The truth of it was to withhold water from other places so that they could grow food. And I get that. I'm not trying to criticize. I'm asking us to look at the past, review it in the present, and use the energies and the notions that we learn to provide for the future more evenly. I have to say, reading lots of the articles this morning, the people, the authorities that control a lot of the dams and canals that were built to move water to places like the Imperial Valley in California to create farmland, their way of dealing with water resources in the future is to say they hope it snows or rains. They just hope. Do you know, there's something terribly primitive about just hoping. I'm not saying that their solutions are necessarily better. They might be perfect at the time, but we have to review everything as we move forwards. So we have the Princess of Wands and the Princess of Swords. Somehow fire and air is coming to the water, just like with the volcanoes. Fire and air, the fire is the cosmic light, as well as being kind of aether frequency. We've got to reach up to a higher understanding in order not to keep creating toxicity for the world we live in. I mean, an interesting observation I have here is in Mexico, most people, even though the water is purified before it goes into the system is so old that there's, and humidity possibly is part of the problem with it, but you can't drink the tap water, so everybody buys 20-litre bottles that you put on a water cooler. And this water has been purified. It contains no salt, it contains no minerals, it's just pure water. And that seems like a great selling point, but where you're somewhere where you sweat so much, you're losing mineral salts all the time. So then you have to go out. In all the shops they sell electrolyte drinks because people need to restore the salts and the minerals that they're losing, and so you're paying for purified bottled water to drink even though you've already paid for water to come from your taps that's drinkable. But on top of that, you're paying for yet another product to top up your minerals and salts. It's almost like being doubly punished all the time for water that's a natural resource that really should be freely available to everyone. It's water sorcery. Right. So it's like there's been an upgrade going on. Boom. Whoosh. Prince of Wands, Knight of Swords. So from this rebirthing energy that we have now, we're in air epoch. Ninlil bringing back the space, the distance between the heaven and the earth, pulling back in the journey of the Bifrost, the journey home, so that we can actually have a sense of where we came from and where we want to be heading, to this energy frequency of fire exploding, the energy deep within the core of the earth. But that's of a lesser frequency than air, which is in night frequency. Night is to be Zen, is the king. That's the top trump in that respect. And then we have satiety. Then the emotions will flow. But these emotions will flow with a sense of Mars in Pisces. Mars doesn't get to Pisces until halfway through next year. And this has got the energy of Tree of Life. It's like there's a return to the originate frequency. Returning home is coming through air and fire, bringing movement, bringing new emotional language that we'd forgotten, returning the frequency of treasures of the oceans, treasures of the rivers to us all as humans, so that we can move forwards, so that we can experience a new world that has a greater fairness. I don't think you can fight it. I just think this is the frequency that's coming in. So I've got my sound healing cards, and I just want to see if there's any messages that they would like to give. I'm not going to give the sound healings. I'm just looking at, we often top and tail these. Okay, so what do we have? On the bottom, Venus. That's air energy. It's the higher heart. It's that energy of water bringing new messages. And the top card, Gaia, Uranus. It's a perfect fourth. It's like we're moving to B major. What's missing? D sharp. D sharp is E flat, Neptune, livers, kidneys and spleen. There's a frequency, again, it's like, I want to say, B major is being returned from B minor somehow. The sadness of the water is being restored to a brightness. And there will be a lot of shifting. There will be a lot more rising of the water levels. I think part of the melting of the ice caps now is a necessary tempering of the toxicity of our global waterways. We've made it incredibly toxic. And look, this is Uranian energy. This is in Taurus. Venus rules Taurus. There's a harmony. Pythagoras knew that the perfect fourth was the cosmically significant interval. The energy of the earth is being transformed. The Uranian energy is shaking up the frequency. It's bringing a new energy to fix a new energy into the earth. Because Gaia, Uranus, will be in Taurus for another few years yet. And so there's a lot of energy that comes in. Look, the energy of Uranian energy don't give a shit, is what I'm trying to say. It will come in and it will bring in what it feels is the right frequency to detoxify us, to bring our hearts online. That hummingbird that was being squeezed out of the cenote's sacredness earlier, it's coming in to make change. It's doing it in the way in which it feels is benevolent, but it won't necessarily feel that way at times. There's always an energy that comes with this cardinal mutational energy that breaks through things that are fixed, that can give people a slight sense of PTSD who fear change. Go with the flow of the water, the flow of the air, the flow of the earth. If you can go with the flow, you will find it easier to make the shifts from this old toxic world around us to a much brighter, much more comfortable, glowing, luminous warrior world. So, that's today's reading. I'll do another reading hopefully tomorrow, but I won't do one on Friday, because on Friday it's my birthday and I'm going to Mayapan, and I'll do a reading there, but I won't. I need to enjoy my birthday on my birthday, and then Saturday I'll try and put whatever readings come out from Mayapan together and put them online. So anyway, Wassail, have a beautiful rest of the week, people. Much love to you.